What's going on? This is a live stream because I'm too lazy to record and edit. So I thought, well, let's live stream it because then I'll just get straight uploaded when I stop live streaming. Perfect sensitivity and DPI. For some reason, I'm getting recommended videos from fucking 6 years ago by Shroud, and it's clips of him talking about DPI and sensitivity. We're gonna talk about that. My DPI is 800 across the board every game, desktop included, not even in a game. Sensitivity changes per game. And personally, that's how it should be. You should not be constantly changing your DPI. I believe that you shouldn't change your DPI based on if you're playing stretched res or anything. Your DPI should be constant. From starting your computer, clicking random apps, not even playing games, doom scrolling, to playing games. So what I did was I chose a sensitivity that felt right normally. If 400 felt too slow for me, 1600 felt too fast. I just picked whatever I felt nice for just going across my monitor, just in general. So I picked 800, and it was always stay 800. Whenever I play games, it will change. So for Delta Force, that's my sense, 12. Call of Duty, I think it's 15 with a 0.9 ADS. Counter-Strike is 2.5 with a 0.9 ADS, I think. I don't know, I thought I had it written on a sticky note, but I don't. And just like that. So, DPI, like I said, just pick one and never change it. You shouldn't be changing DPI between games. I don't believe that you should ever do that. Same thing with, like, if you stretched res or not. Like, I play 4x3, I play 4-3 stretched on Counter-Strike and 16x9 on here. The only thing that's going to change is sense. And a lot of the time, I don't change my sensitivity even when I go to stretched res. I just get used to it, because change your sensitivity constantly is just a downside. Because it just, you have to retrain your muscles, and your muscles are just used to what you have before. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have a sensitivity for a while, and you're slightly inconsistent with it that entire time, and then finally you decide, oh, I'm going to change, but you think to yourself, oh, I shouldn't change, it's bad. Change it. Like, find something that still fits you better. You could still dial it in, especially if you're on, that's the luxury of being on mouse, is that you have the luxury of finding that perfect, little 0.01, that 0.01. It's like you could find that, dial it in. That's something controller doesn't have, and you should take advantage of that being on PC. So, like I said, find that and dial it in. I would go to firing range. I think it's capped at 60 FPS. Yeah, because this game is hilarious. Let me turn that up real quick. So let's do like 144. So again, just find a sensitivity that works for you in game. Again, like I said, and it doesn't have to be perfect for every game you play, obviously. But again, just dial it in, find what works. If you're flicking to something and you tend to overshoot a lot, say I want to flick to this guy and I'm over here, oh, okay, I flicked to that a little bit too far. You want to turn down your sensitivity. You want to go over, okay, let's turn it down a little bit. Okay, well, now if you're flicking and you're stopping right before the enemy, well, then that's, you're undershooting. So what you want to do is you want to change your sensitivity and turn it up a little bit. Turn it up and down, up and down, you want to change it. Something that you do want to do is, if your game has an option for raw input, put it on. You always want to keep, what's it called, turned off? Mouse acceleration. Usually, keep it off. Always keep it off. If you're a new player, just turn it off. Turn off mouse acceleration. I don't even know if this game has mouse acceleration. It might not. I don't know. Monitor distance coefficient is, Call of Duty has this too. And just Google it, because depending on your resolution, it changes. So I think 1.33 is meant for 1080p, whereas 1440p is like 1.78, so I'm 1440p, so this is technically RON, I think. Wonderful. I'll probably change that, but yeah, you just have to dial it in, and that's all you have to do for every game. It really isn't that difficult. Please, please do not copy your favorite player's sensitivity. You can, if you're trying to just joke around, but don't take it to heart and don't go, I'm going to play like Shroud and have his DPI and sensitivity. That's a great way to fuck yourself over for the coming months until you hopefully, your brain hopefully and your body hopefully adjusts to it naturally and is finally able to be like, okay, this fits me. Probably not. You will probably undershoot or overshoot or, miss shots here and there more than you would if you just found a sensitivity that fit you. And again, if you pick Shroud's DPI and sensitivity and you feel like it works for you, that's great, because it's still probably not as perfect as it can be, because it's not your preferential sensitivity. There are so many nuances between changing it up and down just by a little bit. There is a large difference between 0.57 and 0.0. And again, most people, I'm not like, who the hell's going to memorize 12.57? So I try to keep mine at, specific intervals. Like my real sensitivity might be 11.59, but you can go that pinpoint if you want. Most people probably don't, and I'm not going to because I don't care enough. But if you do, you can. But please don't copy your favorite pro player's sensitivity. Find what works for you. If you were like a high sensitivity, turn it up really high and then adjust it from there. If you like really low sensitivity, turn it low, adjust it from there. So forth, so forth. Again, it's not going to be instant. You're not going to instantly find your sensitivity. Start with a DPI that you like across all games. Find a DPI that you go, okay, this is fine between every game. And then switch your sensitivity from there. So like I said, I play 800 DPI, so find sensitivity that works. I like 12 on this game. It's not too fast, but it's not too slow. Also, another thing is your sensitivity may change based on your FOV to an extent. I tend not to change my FOV, or FOV you should keep the same between games to an extent, to be honest, although FOV is also, tied to your how many FPS you get. So again, that, it depends. It depends. Other games like Counter-Strike, you tend to want a lower FOV, whereas games like Call of Duty, people tend to put them higher. It also depends on your FPS. It also depends on what you feel comfortable playing at. I play 100 on here. I think Call of Duty, I play 110. So it just depends. Again, when I change my sensitivity, or when I change, not my sensitivity, when I change my FOV, I keep my sensitivity the same. Because you're just really changing how much you can see, not how far it's going. I guess, I don't know, but yeah, sensitivity, please don't copy pro players. Just find what works for you between games. Find that DPI, keep your DPI the same. Just system DPI, keep it the same, is at least what I would say. And then your sensitivity, change it based on game. And again, you don't have to have the same sensitivity across every game. It's not going to work. A 10 sensitivity in Counter-Strike will not be a 10 sensitivity in Call of Duty, Delta Force, Overwatch. You might have some similarities between certain games like Call of Duty and maybe Overwatch. It depends on the company that makes them. You might have similarities between TF2 and Counter-Strike, because again, they're both Source Engine. They're both a Valve game. My sensitivity in TF2 tends to be around a 3. Sometimes, I used to play on 2.5. I think I turned it up to around a 3. I hover around between 2.5 and a 3, but that isn't because it's different than Counter-Strike. It's because of you play the game differently. I main Soldier. I tend to rocket jump a lot, so I like having that fast flick, and you tend to want to flick more, in TF2 compared to Counter-Strike. Same thing with Call of Duty. My sensitivity is undoubtedly higher in Call of Duty than it is in Counter-Strike, but that's because of, the game and how the game plays and everything. You're moving around super fast, you're sliding, you're jumping, you're diving, blah, blah, blah. You're flicking a lot. If you're going to be flicking a lot in a game, you want a higher sensitivity. If you're not going to be flicking a lot, you want a lower sensitivity. Lower sensitivity gives you more control, whereas a higher sensitivity gives you less control, but better flicks. And again, you just want to try to find a good middle ground, because just because somebody has a high sensitivity doesn't mean they have no control. They just like a high sensitivity and it fits them. So like again, don't take it as, oh, I should turn my sensitivity up really high so I can get really cool flicks, but I have no control. No, find something that works both ways. Let yourself be able to flick and also not be able to flick. My sensitivity is a little messed up. I'm still dialing stuff in this game. It's not as perfect. But again, a game like Counter-Strike, you just want to be on point as much as you can. And again, there's other things that are going to change it. The mouse that you have, if you're switching between mice, you might feel a little bit of a difference. Again, you shouldn't have to change your sensitivity depending on the mouse you play. Because again, once you dial in your sensitivity, it's going to become muscle memory. Like, you have to find what works. Sorry, my cat shit, and it smells really bad. um, Somebody was yelling about the cat. Oh my god. Anyway, yeah. Peripheral wise, so I use a G Pro X Superlight and a Extrafy M42 wireless. I've been maining the M42 wireless. I've kind of stopped using my G Pro X Superlight, but I haven't changed sensitivities between them. Every game sensitivity is the same. Obviously, if you buy a mouse and it's heavier or lighter than your previous one, you may feel like you want to change your sensitivity. And to that, I say try not to. Try to keep it the same. And if you play for, a few hours, maybe a day or two, and you're really like, this is really too much for me, I need to turn it down, then turn it down. Or if you really feel like you need to turn it up, turn it up. But yeah, because even when I switch between mice, I don't, change my sensitivity. You want to find something and you want to stick with it, because even if it doesn't feel pinpoint perfect, it's fine. Say you're choosing between a 11 sensitivity, or like say I'm choosing between 12 and 11. It's like, okay, well, 12 is too high, 11 is too low, let's go with 11.5. And if you're like, oh, it's still not, it doesn't feel, I'm still slightly, sometimes slightly off, just leave it. For one, a 0.5 is easy to remember. 11.5 is easy to remember, compared to 11.67. You can do that. That's fine. Nobody's telling you can't dial it in perfectly. But for me, I would do 11.5, and I would just let myself adjust to it. If you really, if you play for a few days and you're like, I'm really just slightly off this many times, I could really benefit from going up 0.1 or 0.05, then you could do that. By all means, it's personal preference. But again, you just want to find a sweet spot. And again, I'm not saying like you're not going to pick a sensitivity and be like, holy crap, 13.67, I got aimbot now. It's not going to happen. You're going to find a sensitivity like 11.5, and you're going to go, wow, this is way better than everything else I've tried, but it's not pinpoint accurate. That's perfect, because it doesn't need to be pinpoint. You don't have aimbot, all right? It's not going to magically give you cheats, but if you feel like it's the best that you can currently come up with, leave it and play with it, because eventually your muscle memory is going to take over, and it's going to be like, okay, I've dialed in, I've become accustomed, I formed to this sensitivity. It's like practicing for sport. If you might be bad at shooting free throws, but 500 free throws later, you sit down and you go to practice and you shoot 500 of them, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be able to shoot them way better than you did before. If you just keep doing something, you're going to get better. And again, people might be like, well, why don't I just do that why don't I just copy a pro sensitivity and then I could just get used to it? Because the difference is your body's not accustomed to it. Your body, your mind, and the way you play, you might be like, ooh, I like it's like, oh, I like it fast, because then I don't have to move my hand as much, and I can make shorter adjustments, and I could do this, and it feels way better. Whereas like, you might pick your favorite pro player sensitivity, and it might be way too slow for you. And again, you may be able to adapt to that sensitivity, but it may take substantially longer, and you might brick wall yourself at a certain point. You might only get so good because your body's just like, I can't deal with it. You know, it takes too much strain because somebody, the Shroud video, the clip that I saw, somebody was like, hey, I play at 400 DPI. It was his sensitivity. He had Shroud sensitivity and DPI, and the guy was like, you know, how do you, I'm using full arm. I have to move my entire arm when I move my mouse, and it hurts. I get strain. And Shroud was like, dude, turn up your DPI. Just turn up your sensitivity. Like, if it's hurting you, change it. You know, you shouldn't have to force yourself into a situation like that. You shouldn't be forcing yourself to do something. I think there was a saying or something weird like that. You know, you want something to be easy. You want it to flow. You know, you shouldn't be forcing yourself. You shouldn't have to try to concentrate with all of your might to do something like that. You know, you have to find ways to be like, okay, make it easier. You want it to be, you want to be good as possible, as easy as possible, you know. I don't know if that's really a perfect way to explain it, but I guess that's how I'm explaining it. And the entire screen is frozen. How long has it been frozen for? I don't know, but OBS is a piece of fucking shit. I'm glad it's been frozen this entire time. My point still stands. You didn't really need to see anything, but yeah, just pick a sensitivity and go with it, I guess. I don't know.